Hi everyone, it's Danny. Alrighty, today we're gonna talk about slug and snail infestations with orchids. This is really a common occurrence, especially in my area in Europe for some reason. I'm not sure about the USA, but you need to keep your eyes peeled because slugs and snails can absolutely decimate your orchid, and I've been through enough bad experiences to let this unattended. Okay, so what's the difference between slugs and snails? Well, snails usually have a little shell in which they can hide and usually stay in the soil or in the potting media. Now with orchids, I only found bush snails, which are very tiny and usually stay inside the media, but they feed on new growth, which are super fresh and yummy, and also new root tips. And I've actually had some deceased orchids because of them, so I'm taking things really seriously. They're tiny and quite cute, but they can kill an orchid. Now slugs are snails without a shell. Slugs can stay in the media, but they can travel on the top of the media as well and to the orchid. If there is a lot of humidity around the orchid or the leaves are wet, they're gonna travel. Both slugs and snails love moisture, so the best way to catch them in action is actually to provide a lot of humidity and moisture. In drought conditions, they will not show their faces, but you can rest assured they're there. Alrighty, so a few signs. Now, if you see on the flower here, I have some pretty weird patches on the petals. This is damage created by a slug that I actually found on this orchid. Okay, if we look lower, we can see a petal that is quite munched. It looks like somebody took some bites out of it, and this is actually what happened. The slug actually ate parts of the petal. And although Jackie finds this amusing, I don't. And now let's take a look at the root system and see how some snail damage or slug damage looks like. Whenever you will see roots that tend to stop growing out of a sudden, and they might also present a sort of bite wound that goes inwards, you can rest assured this is a slug or snail bite. So if you see this on your orchid, it is a sign that you have snails. Now, if you leave this unattended, snails can actually munch off the new growing tips and actually the roots, depending how big the snail is, and then go up and munch the flowers and the flower spikes and whatever new fresh growth this orchid might have. So it is in your best interest to get rid of them. Now, how to get rid of them? Well, I have to tell you, I tried everything. I tried beer, I tried lettuce, potatoes, cucumber, you name it. Nothing really works. It attracts them to some extent, but it does not get you rid of the problem. The only way I found to get rid of them is to actually repot the orchid, get rid of the old media, and actually spraying hydrogen peroxide 3% on the root system mainly, but if you have some slugs further up, it's a good idea to spray the orchid as well. Mind you, hydrogen peroxide will affect the blooms. It might create some ugly patches because blooms are pretty fragile, and the hydrogen peroxide can actually burn them a little bit. However, hydrogen peroxide doesn't seem to burn roots or leaves or anything of the sorts. So what we're gonna do with this orchid is unpot it, see what we find in the media, and then go wash it and spray it with hydrogen peroxide 3%. Now, hydrogen peroxide burns the soft skin of snails and slugs, and I did not find a better non-toxic method or substance to get rid of them other than hydrogen peroxide. Alrighty, so I actually poured the hydrogen peroxide 3% into a spray bottle to make my life easier, and after I washed the orchid's roots and got rid of all the dead and mushy roots, I sprayed the entire root system with hydrogen peroxide. Also, I tried to remove the dried sheaths and dried leaves this orchid might have had because they are a good hiding place for snails, and I've also sprayed in between the pseudobulbs and also in between the leaves. Now, because this orchid is wet, after I repot it, I'll try to remove the excessive water left behind with a paper napkin. But I had to do this because some snails can sit sometimes between the foliage, and yeah, needless to say, you will not resolve anything. Now, when you spray with hydrogen peroxide, you will hear a fizz. Now, this is normal, you shouldn't worry about it. This is how hydrogen peroxide reacts with organic material, and this is actually what kills the snails. So righty, after a few minutes of letting this orchid fizz, I will go ahead and repot my orchid into fresh media in a clean pot. Okay, so here is my orchid repotted. Now keep in mind that when you repot orchids that are in bloom or that have buds, you might have some bud loss and flower loss, but that's quite common. If that happens to you, it's just the orchid's way of adapting to the change. So you have to pick here. If you think that blooms are more important for you than the health of the root system, then do not repot. But if you are very scared of snails and the damage they can do, like I am, you really will not care about the blooms this time, but the well-being of the orchid. And that's what I like to do whenever I see slug damage or snail damage. As I said, I had some pretty ugly cases, so I know what they can do. So alrighty, if you've enjoyed this video, then click like and share. If you'd like to see more videos with orchids from me, just subscribe to my channel for daily videos. You can also leave me questions and suggestions in the comment section below. And you can visit orchidnature.com if you click on the left side of your screen, and there you will find care sheets and identification sheets and also forums. Now if you click on the right side of your screen, you will see another orchid video. Alrighty, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!